What if I told you that everything you believe right now, everything you are convinced is true, could be wrong? Not slightly wrong. Completely wrong. And not because you're not smart, but because truth itself doesn't work the way we think it does. For centuries, people believed that science was about proving things, proving ideas, confirming truth, building certainty. But then one man came and shook that entire foundation. His name was Karl Popper, and what he discovered didn't just change science. It changed how we think, how we argue, how we lead, and even how we live. Because, according to Popper, truth is not something you prove. It's something you survive. Let me show you what that means. Popper wasn't just sitting in a quiet room writing theories for fun. He lived in a time when the world was breaking apart. Wars, propaganda, dangerous ideologies rising everywhere. People blindly following ideas because they sounded convincing. He saw something dangerous. Not just in politics, but in the way human beings think. We love certainty. We love saying, I know this is true. But Popper came with a bold, almost uncomfortable idea. What if the moment you think you're absolutely right is the moment you stop growing? That's where his most powerful idea begins. Popper introduced something called falsifiability. Now don't let that big word scare you. It's actually very simple. He said, for any idea to be considered scientific, it must be possible to prove it wrong. Not prove it right. Prove it wrong. Let that sink in. Imagine someone says, all swans in the world are white. Sounds reasonable, right? But Popper would say, good. Now go out and try to find just one swan that is not white. Just one. Because the moment you find a black swan, that entire belief collapses. That is science. Not collecting evidence to support what you already believe, but actively searching for evidence that could destroy it. That one idea alone separated real science from nonsense. Because think about it. If someone says, no matter what happens, I'm always right, how do you test that? You can't. And that, according to Popper, is not knowledge. It's illusion. This is where he quietly challenged entire systems like astrology and vague belief systems that always seem correct no matter what happens. If something cannot be tested, it cannot be trusted. Simple. Brutal. Honest. But Popper didn't stop there. He went deeper. For years, people believed in something called induction, the idea that if you observe something repeatedly, it must be true. If you see the sun rise every morning, you start believing it will rise forever. If you see only white swans your whole life, you conclude all swans are white. This thinking was influenced by philosophers like David Hume. But Popper pointed out a major flaw. No matter how many times something happens, you can never be 100% sure it will always happen. Because all it takes is one exception. Just one. And everything changes. So instead of trying to prove things right over and over again, Popper flipped the entire game. He said, stop trying to confirm your ideas. Start trying to destroy them. This is where his next concept comes in, conjectures and refutations. This is how knowledge grows. You make a guess, a bold idea, a theory, a hypothesis. That's your conjecture. Then you test it. Challenge it. Attack it from every angle. That's refutation. If it survives, it becomes stronger. If it fails, you learn and create a better idea. So progress is not about being right. It's about being corrected. Let me say that again because this can change your life. Progress is not about being right. It's about being corrected. Think about your own life. How many times have you held onto an idea just because you didn't want to be wrong? How many arguments have you lost? Not because you lacked facts, but because you refused to question yourself. Popper would say, that's the real danger. Not ignorance, but stubborn certainty. Now, here's where things get even more interesting. If we can't truly prove anything to be 100% true, then what are we even doing? Are we just guessing forever? Popper answered that with another concept, verisimilitude. It simply means closeness to truth. So instead of chasing perfect truth, we aim to get closer and closer to it. Think of it like this. Every time a wrong idea is removed, what remains is slightly more accurate. So science, and even life, is like sculpting. You don't start with perfection. You remove what is false, until something better appears. That's growth. That's evolution of knowledge. But Popper didn't just focus on science. He looked at society too. And he saw another dangerous pattern. People believing that history follows a fixed path. That the future is already determined. That certain systems or ideologies are destined to win. He strongly rejected this idea, which he called historicism. He challenged thinkers like Karl Marx, whose ideas were often interpreted as predicting inevitable historical outcomes. Popper said no. The future is not predictable. Human knowledge keeps changing, and because of that, society cannot follow a fixed script. And when leaders claim they know the destined future, that's where danger begins. Because they stop listening. They stop allowing criticism. And that leads to oppression. Which brings us to one of his most powerful ideas, the open society. In his famous work, The Open Society and Its Enemies, Popper described two types of societies, an open society and a closed one. An open society allows freedom, criticism, debate. No idea is beyond questioning. No leader is above correction. A closed society is the opposite. Rigid, controlling, authoritarian, where questioning is seen as rebellion. And here's the dangerous part. Closed societies often start with people who believe they are absolutely right. People who think they have discovered the final truth. Popper warned us about this. He even criticized legendary thinkers like Plato, not because they weren't brilliant, but because some of their ideas leaned toward controlled, rigid societies. Now think about today. Social media, politics, even religion in some cases. People shouting opinions like they are facts. Nobody wants to be corrected. Everybody wants to win. But Popper would say, that's how societies break. Because progress requires criticism. And criticism requires humility. Now let's talk about how to actually fix society. Popper didn't believe in grand, perfect systems. He didn't trust big promises of utopia. Instead, he introduced something practical, piecemeal social engineering, which simply means fix things step by step, test small changes, improve gradually, instead of trying to rebuild the entire system overnight. Because when you try to fix everything at once, you risk destroying everything. This idea is powerful, especially for countries, businesses, and even personal growth. Don't aim for perfection. Aim for progress. Now here's one of his most mind-blowing ideas, the three worlds theory. Popper said reality exists in three layers. World 1 is the physical world. Objects, buildings, your phone, your body. World 2 is your mental world. Your thoughts, emotions, experiences. World 3 is where it gets interesting. That's the world of ideas. Books, theories, knowledge. And here's the twist. Once an idea is created, it exists independently. That means the knowledge in a book continues to exist even after the author is gone. Ideas take on a life of their own. Think about that. The thoughts you create today could outlive you. That's power. Finally, everything ties into one core mindset, critical rationalism. This is Popper's philosophy of thinking. He believed we should not try to justify our beliefs endlessly. We should try to challenge them, test them, question them, not to destroy ourselves, but to refine ourselves. Because the strongest ideas are not the ones that avoid criticism. They are the ones that survive it. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. You don't grow by being right. You grow by being corrected. So next time you're in an argument, next time you're defending an idea, pause. Ask yourself, what if I'm wrong? Not as a weakness, but as a superpower. Because in a world full of noise, opinions, and people desperate to be right, the rarest strength is this: the courage to question yourself. Karl Popper didn't just change science. He gave us a way to think, a way to grow, a way to protect freedom. Because when people stop questioning, they start controlling. And when criticism dies, so does progress. So don't chase being right. Chase being better. And if this opened your mind even a little, I want you to type this in the comments. I question everything, because that right there is where real intelligence begins. And if you're ready for more ideas that will challenge how you see the world, hit subscribe, because we're just getting started.